government officials from the government of Sindh. Thank you very much, sir, for hosting this delegation from the Pakistan Navy War College, Lahore. Basically, the course members sitting before you comprise of the 52nd Staff Course, which is a 10 months long course and a very, very important mid-career course in the professional life of a naval officer. Apart from the naval officers, we have officers from Pakistan Army and Pakistan Air Force also as part of the course. But most importantly, we have around more than 40 officers from friendly countries, from 15 friendly countries, 40 officers, which comprise almost 50% of our course. The inland study tour is very important part of their course, and it will help them in understanding the dynamics of the the province of Sindh, which is very central to the naval domain. We hope that these briefings will help them in, and especially the question and answer session, because meeting with the government officials who are handling the issues on a daily basis, this is a unique opportunity which they will enjoy. So thank you very much.
Real Admiral Javid Iqbal Sahab, participants of the course, the officers from Government of Sindh, ladies and gentlemen, very good afternoon. The Chief Minister is about to join us maybe in next 10 to 15 minutes. He is on his way back from PF base vessel. So once he arrives, I think he will also like to share his thoughts with you. But in the meantime, I will just give you a very brief overlay of the Government of Sindh's portfolios and its major initiatives. As you all know that Sindh is probably the most urbanized province of the country, with Karachi, the mega city, located here. The two ports are here, and it's the financial and industrial hub of the country. Most of the exports which Pakistan earns its revenues through are processed through Karachi. And then there is a rural economy of this province. The Indus flows through it, and there is a canal system which was erected in the British time. So that infrastructure is there. So it's a province which has a urbanized and a rural agriculture-based economy set up. This diversity comes with its own set of challenges and issues. But since it has a very long history and tradition of Sufism, inclusiveness, diversity, which comes through that culture which was introduced in Sindh by the Sufis. So you will find that it is the most diverse province in terms of ethnic composition, and Sindh is the land which accepts people from all religion, sects, ethnic background, linguistic backgrounds with open arms. So we'll find a very good mix of all segments of Pakistani society and classes here. Coming to the Government of Sindh's key, I would like to share some of the successes which Government of Sindh can claim that it has achieved and it can boast of as compared to other provincial governments. Our public-private partnership unit, which we established in the year 2010, is one of the best performing PPP unit in the country. Since we live in a time where we have a lot of fiscal constraints, so the funding for the development projects is an issue. Our fiscal constraints force us to revise down our PSDP allocation and annual development program allocations. During the current year, the Pakistan Public Support project was budgeted at 900 billion rupees, but it has now come down to 600 billion rupees. So with this kind of thin allocation and fiscal constraints, there's always a need for having a more diverse portfolio in which alternate mode of financing are attracted. So public-private partnership is one of the ways of doing it. So Sindh has led the way in it. We have done several infrastructure projects like roads and bridges under the public-private partnership mode. In fact, one of the biggest energy project in country, the Thercoal mining and power generation project, was done under the public-private partnership. It was at that time a $2 billion project, and we partnered with Angro, which is a private sector company, to ensure that a good mix of public sector resources and the private sector expertise is achieved. And that is a demonstration of how public-private partnership can do projects which generally are looked down as most challenging or very difficult to do. Then we have extended the public-private partnership into the social sectors as well. So we are now having education management organizations which are running schools in Sindh, and then we have also organizations like Indus Hospital which are running the government facilities for Government of Sindh. So this is one of the areas where I think we have been innovating, we have been creating new opportunities, and we have been demonstrating that this is the way to go forward. As I mentioned, that these are the time where we experience most harsh economic conditions, and it's very difficult for government to mobilize development activities, funding through its own resources. Talking about the economic situation and how the fiscal deficit in the country is challenging us, another initiative of Government of Sindh which has bore fruit is Sindh Revenue Board. Through the 7th NFC award, the mandate of collection of sales tax on service was given to the provinces for the first time in year 2010. So the sales tax on services, the provinces started collecting it for the first time. The FBR was collecting it before that. So in 2010, the Government of Sindh received service tax from the FBR. The amount was only 16 billion rupees. When Sindh government started collecting it, now this year, after 12 years of collection, the target for this year is rupees 180 billion rupees. Last year we collected 150 billion rupees. So there is a phenomenal growth in that tax. So that makes a point for further fiscal decentralization in the country. Because if we decentralize collection of taxes, I think the closer the tax machinery is to the taxpayers, better results will be achieved. So this, after the Sindh Revenue Board was created, then other provinces also followed the example of Government of Sindh. And then Punjab Revenue Authority was established, and that was followed by the KP Revenue Authority, and now the Balochistan government has also created its own revenue authority. So these are the two major initiatives which we can further discuss if you have questions on that, or if you want to understand more in depth about these two areas. Another area in which I think Government of Sindh has done quite well is in the realm of tertiary healthcare. We inherited National Institute of Cardiovascular Diseases from the federal government after the 18th constitutional amendment in which devolution took place. Now the NICVD at that time was only catering to some basic needs of the cardiac patients in Karachi. Now it has 9 satellite centers scattered all over the provinces, all over the province, and the budget has increased about tenfold. And it is probably the biggest intervention cardiology facility in the world in terms of primary angioplasty. the number of cases of
Excuse
primary
me,
angioplasty.
ladies and gentlemen, Honorable Chief Minister Sindh.
So I was just mentioning about some of the areas, but since I have bad throat, I think, and they will like to listen to you more. I was mentioning about the tertiary health facilities which Government of Sindh has created, the NICVD, then another hospital, Sindh Institute of Urology and Transplant. Dr. Adib Rizvi was pioneer of it, and a massive funding from the Government of Sindh has gone into it. And if you go there, you will find that patients from all over the country are there, even patients from the neighboring countries like Afghanistan are being treated there. And these facilities are totally free of cost. So whoever goes to NICVD, if he needs primary angioplasty, it will be done without charging anything. These are the success stories. As I mentioned, the public-private partnership, so Indus Hospital is one of the better performing hospitals in Karachi. We have, through public-private partnership, we have given our civil hospital in Badin to Indus through agreement. So these are the areas in tertiary healthcare where we have improved the service delivery in the health sector. Another example is Jinnah Postgraduate Medical Center, which was another health facility which was transferred to Government of Sindh after the 18th Constitutional Amendment. There, with the Patient Aid Foundation, which is a philanthropic organization in which contributions are made by the leading industrialists and other businessmen of the city, the Patient Aid Foundation and Government of Sindh partnered, and its radiology department is one of the best radiology department, even if you compare it with the private sector radiology services. It has CyberKnife facility, it has most modern state-of-the-art MRI and CT scan machines, as well as the ultrasound equipment, etc. Those are most modern in terms of the technology. Now, the major issue is that though we have done well in tertiary healthcare and we have spent a lot of resources in that, but the primary healthcare remains the weak area. And we need to do more in order to remove or to lessen the burden on our tertiary healthcare facilities. So the Lady Health Worker Program is there. The primary healthcare service are being provided by the lady health workers, but the kind of training, the capacity building which is required has to be augmented, has to be improved. So this is the area. In education sector, particularly in the school education, I think the issues are several. Our out-of-school children number is very high. Teacher absenteeism is another problem. And the learning outcomes of the school-going children, particularly in the public schools, are not very satisfactory. So we have tried to improve that through the public-private partnerships, but the number of schools currently in Sindh is around 45,000. So what we have managed to do through introduction of private partners is only managing about a couple of hundred or 300 schools. So this is a challenge to take it to these scales. In terms of fiscal condition of the province, after the 7th NFC award, provinces have started receiving 57.5% of the share from the divisible pool. And Sindh gets its share. For the first time, it was decided that multiple indicators will be used for the resource distribution. So on the basis of multiple indicators, previously only the population was the sole criteria for distribution resource. So now the inverse population density and the fiscal mobilization, etc., were added to that basket. So we receive, out of 57.5% share of the provinces, we receive 24% of that. on the basis of these multiple criteria. But the challenges like this year, we got these major natural calamity in terms of the heavy monsoon rainfalls as well as subsequent flooding. So in these situations, then we struggle to provide for the resources for our regular activities. Till now, about 35 billion rupees have already been spent on the relief and rescue effort of the flooding, and we are now starting a rehabilitation phase in which donors have committed their resources. The World Bank has, on 19th of December in their board meeting, have approved projects worth 1.7 billion US dollars for the government of Sindh. So these projects will be starting through retroactive financing because the World Bank committed financing will come in the month of March or April. So we will start spending our own resources for housing, for agriculture subsidy, etc., for building the irrigation and road infrastructure. So these kind of crisis situation create a lot of burden on the provincial exchequer. And since the national economy is also quite fragile at the moment, macroeconomic indicators are not very robust or healthy. So these are the areas where we need to see how can we make a long-term plan for improving the economy of the country so that we can meet these challenges through our own resources. So this in brief are the areas where I think which takes priority at the moment. But we have presentation by Chairman Planning and Development, followed by a presentation on law and order by Inspector General of Police. And then I think we will have a lot of time available for question and answer session, and the Chief Minister is here to respond to those questions. Thank you.
Bismillah Rahman Rahim. I would be briefing you about the development portfolio of the provincial government. Next, please. So as Chief Secretary Saab has mentioned, health and education have always remained the top priority of government of Sindh. So providing educational institutions for quality education and increased enrollment, that remains our first priority. And along with that, improving and upgrading health facilities and managing available health institutions, this is amongst the top priorities. Then again, agriculture and enhancing agricultural productivity chain. In post-flood context, climate-resilient irrigation and drainage infrastructure, its reconstruction, its rebuilding, especially for water conservation. And then providing clean drinking water and safe disposal of sewage, improving road connectivity, which has been hugely damaged in this post-flood scenario. Infrastructure development of mass transit and safe city for Karachi. Karachi remains a priority for the provincial government. Then providing nutrition and poverty reduction measures through community infrastructure funds, income generating micro assets. Now this gives you the total outlay of the development portfolio of the provincial government. As you can see here, our total development portfolio is around 459 billion rupees, and of this provincial and district portfolios, which are provided by the provincial government from its resources, is 362 billion rupees. We have some funding from our donor agencies, which amounts to around 91 billion rupees, and this all adds up to 459 billion rupees. Next, please. So as you can see here, the priority has generally remained on completing our ongoing schemes, which have already been rolled out in previous years. We try to take up as less and as prioritized schemes as possible in any current year. So our development portfolio shows here that 76% of our portfolio comprises of ongoing schemes, and we have taken up 24% new schemes during current year. Next, please. Now this pie chart shows you the distribution of our development portfolio. As you can see, the major investment goes in building road networks and then water and sanitation, which primarily comprises of irrigation. You see a smaller share of education and health against the prioritized list which I showed you in the beginning. This is because of the reason that most allocations pertaining to education and health, these are done through non-development or recurrent budgets. Next, please. So this is the intervention by our international development partners. And we have total loan projects of 14, and then we have 7 grant projects. And the total amount of loan projects is around 354 billion rupees. And our total projects which are being done with the help of our international development partner, these amount to 375 billion rupees as of now. But recently we have also signed another 5 projects which primarily relate to flood rehabilitation. After that, our development portfolio with the development partners, international development partners, would almost be double. It would increase by 100%. Next, please. Karachi has always received top priority in our development portfolio. As you can see, a list of projects which have been taken up by the provincial government. The first one is Karachi Neighborhood Improvement Project at the cost of 10.26 billion rupees. It is coming to its culmination. It pertained to enhancing public spaces for targeted neighborhoods, improvement of urban roads infrastructure, and also ease of doing business. As you might be aware that Pakistan climbed up in the ranking of ease of doing business from 128 to 108. It was primarily because of Sindh and Karachi's interventions. Competitive and livable city of Karachi at the cost of 33 billion rupees. It pertains to institutional strengthening and infrastructure financing of local council and overhauling of urban removal property tax. This has already been rolled out, and this is already in execution. Another bigger project is Karachi Water and Sewerage Improvement Project, Phase 1 and Phase 2, which they amount to around $1.6 billion, $1,600 million. This has already been set out. Its Phase 1 has completed, and Phase 2 is under approval stage at Planning Commission. Then we have another project of solid waste emergency and efficiency program at the cost of 17.6 billion rupees. Transport again receives top priority in the list of the projects. Karachi Urban Mobility Project, which pertains to Yellow Line at the cost of 56 billion rupees and Red Line at the cost of 74.6 billion rupees. Next, please. Now, the entire development portfolio has faced a sea of change after this flood situation. As you can see here, the floods have devastated the province of Sindh again and again. In 2010, we had floods on the right bank, and then in 2011, the floods were on the left bank. But this time around in 2022, we have floods all over the province of Sindh. Next, please. So the calamity hit areas, almost entire Sindh except Karachi and Thar have been declared as calamity hit. And we have an estimate of around 2.1 million houses which have been damaged in these rains, torrential rains and floods. We have lost lives count of 801 and injuries of around 8,500 people. So all this has accounted for a huge loss to national landscape as well as provincial scenario. We have lost around 2.2% of GDP. These are the national numbers which are being quoted here, with agriculture accounting for almost 0.9%. And then unprecedented recovery and reconstruction needs of almost 1.6 times of our budgeted national development expenditure. And this all is accounted, as CSR mentioned, into widening fiscal deficit. This also results in rising food insecurity and inflation and rise in prices of essential items. So, in a nutshell, higher poverty rates, with national poverty rate estimated to increase by 3.7 to 4%, pushing between 8.4 and 9.1 million people into poverty. These are national numbers being quoted here. Next, please. In the context of Sindh, the poverty in Sindh after this post-flood scenario is expected to rise between 8.9 and 9.7 percentage points. Almost 10% poverty would be increased. Among provinces, the housing stock of Sindh has been the worst affected, and we estimate that of the entire national stock, almost 83% is the number, is the percentage for which the Sindh has lost its housing. Almost 4.4 million acres of agricultural land has been damaged. We have lost entire cotton crop. We have lost entire sugarcane crop. Dates crop has been entirely lost. And this all contributes to 72% of total value of damage and losses registered in this sector. Now, Sindh has sustained the highest damage in the forest sector as well, which amounts to 1.8 billion rupees. Next, please. This is a snapshot of the relief activities which was taken up by Government of Sindh, and mostly from its own resources. As you can see here, the two numbers which relate to providing of temporary shelter. We provided almost more than 1 million temporary shelters in the form of tents and tarpaulin sheets to the affected people. And this was done in shortest possible time. Government of Sindh was able to mobilize its resources and procure these tents which were not easily available in the local market and provide it to the affected people. Next, please. Federal government had conducted a post-disaster need assessment with the help of the provincial government, national agencies, revenue staff, and these are the estimates according to which housing damages account for 27%, education 25%, and these all have been quantified into numbers. Since the total national loss has been, damage and loss has been estimated to be $30 billion, of which Sindh's loss is almost 16 billion. Next, please. Now, these are the interventions, and this is what we are doing with the help of donor agencies. The reconstruction need for Sindh has been determined to be around $8 billion. Of this, we have a committed funding of around $2 billion from our international partners, meaning that there is a yawning gap of around $6 billion to fill in and provision for our development needs. Next, please. CS Saab has already mentioned the public-private partnership and its success in Sindh. We have taken up major projects, roads, bridges, as well as in social sector. So I would not go through it again. Next, please. Thank you very much.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So today we had a session in Central Police Office. Most of the participants were there. This will be a repeat for those who attended morning session. Sindh Police is the second largest police of this country. It was established in 1843 by Sir Charles Napier. Its initial strength was 4,245. Its current budget is 109 billion rupees. Its working strength is around 1,19,000. Police population ratio is 1 to around 400. We have currently 8 ranges, 31 districts, and 619 police stations. Next. This slide shows the organogram of our organization. Inspector General of Police is the head of the organization, and he is being assisted by 9 additional Inspector General of Police. Next. When we look at the crime chart, this year we have slightly 7% more murders than the last year. With reference to target killing, we have less number than the last year, almost half. With reference to kidnapping ransom, again, we have a 26% reduction in crime. Overall, when we look at the terrorism, we have 3 cases in this year. Alhamdulillah, all are traced. Either the accused have been killed or arrested. Next. When we look at the overall crime against person, we have a slight increase with reference to this head of crime, whereas 16% is reduction in crime against property. Overall, if we look at the total reported cases, we have this year 85,000 cases against 93,000 cases of last year. Next. Next. This slide shows about Karachi. We had a worst year 2013 in which the reported murder cases were 2,789 in a year. Alhamdulillah, this chart shows this gradually going down. Now in this year we have 512 cases of murder. Next. Same goes with the kidnap for ransom. We had 110 cases in 2014. Now we have in this year 62 cases so far. We don't have any abductee for Karachi in 2021 and 2022. Next. With reference to extortion, we look at the number of worst year. It's 533 in 2013. Now it's gone down to 117 in this year. Next. I've already discussed terrorism. We had 51 cases in 2013. Now we had 3 cases only. Alhamdulillah. You must have heard a lot about street crime. When we we compare 2021 with the current year. Last year we had 75,000 cases reported against 82,000 cases in this year, so 9% higher than the last year. Next. This is a very interesting slide. When you see 10 years before, under had 4-wheeler snatching, the reported cases were 981. Now in this year, only 152. 4-wheeler theft, 3,523 in 2013 against this year 2015, and 2-wheeler snatch 5,119 in 2013, this year 4,519. So under these 3 categories the crime has gone down, but there's a challenge with reference to mobile phone snatch, which is increasing from 12,000 to 27,000 this year, and 2-wheeler theft from 18,000 to 84,000. Next. When we look at the World Crime Index of 350 large cities, Karachi used to be the worst city at number 6, but alhamdulillah it is improving in every year, and now in this year it is at 128. Next. This slide shows the performance of police. We have arrested 16,621 terrorists or criminals in this year, and 204 criminals have been eliminated. Next. We have an extraordinary good CTD department which is working against terrorism. In this year, we have arrested 176 terrorists and killed 6 terrorists. The breakup is given in the slide of different organizations which have been declared as a terrorist organization. Next. This slide shows drive against weapon. We have almost got apprehended number of persons from whom we have recovered around 9,000 weapons of different categories. Next. This slide shows drive against narcotics. We have arrested 17,000 such criminals who are peddling narcotics, out of which we have recovered almost 123 tons of chars, 227 kilogram of heroin, and 115 grams of ice, and a large quantity of wine. Next. Gutka is another very dangerous addictive, which is very popular, especially in the southern part of Sindh. This year we have got registered 7,421 cases, on which 9,000 persons have been arrested, and we have got recovered 936 tons of Gutka and Manpuri. Next. This is the last slide of my presentation, way forward. We are working with our law department to have a legal reforms, because we understand that the current criminal justice system is not working well. It is not giving dividends to especially those who are victim of crime. So we are closely working with law department to have legal reforms. Karachi Safe City is the need of ours. Government has allocated the money, and we expect that this project will be implemented soon. But in piecemeal, we are implementing it very soon. Forensic Science Laboratory, again, money has been allocated in the budget. Work has already been started, and this will help us in collecting the forensic evidence, which will definitely help us to prove the cases in the court of law. E-tagging of repeat offenders is an extraordinary good initiative from police. Government has approved this project. It is pending with now Sindh Assembly for legislation. And I think this is the intervention which badly need for especially the street crime. Installation of smart cameras at toll plazas. We have 40 toll plazas, and we want that the smart cameras should be installed where ANPR and facial recognition cameras should be installed, so that we should monitor the movement of criminals and make their movement difficult. Then Sindh is the probably only province of this country from a government initiative. The rehabilitation centers are being established. We have already 2 rehabilitation centers here, Karachi and Hyderabad, and 2 more are being now under construction. So more rehabilitation centers are also being worked out, so that we think that besides having effective action against narcotics peddlers, there should be a drug demand reduction drive, so that drug demand should be reduced. We have raised a force for protection of minority places. Why? Because here we have a large number of population who have holy places. We think that they should have proper protection. Then we intend to have road infrastructure, especially in the Kacha area. Kacha area is a difficult area where if there's accessibility, then police will work effectively. Installation of Skinner gates. This is something which we need, and I think it has positive and negative things because of health point of view. We are thinking that whether what are the international standards, if it will be good for stopping smuggling and a weapon contraband, then we'll go for it. But still, it is under consideration. Then, in the last improvement of police infrastructure is a very important one, because we think that until and unless there's a welfare of police, they should have a housing scheme. Police will not work very effectively. Thank you very much.
Sir, I'm Lieutenant Commander Bilal. Thank you very much for a very elaborate brief given to us. Sir, my question is pertaining to the collaboration between Pakistan Navy and the Sindh government. Pakistan Navy and Sindh government have been collaborating in the 2 fields, especially in this particular tenure, with respect to the flood relief operations, and also they have been promoting the coastal tourism in the Sindh province, especially Karachi. Sir, what are the initiatives planned by the Sindh government for the enhancing the coastal this tourism, And the Manoda beachfront that was inaugurated by the worthy Chief Minister last year, it was also announced that there will be a ferry service from Clifton to the Manoda beachfront, which is also being used by the Karachi populace and also by Pakistan Naval Academy for official events.
You talked about collaboration between Pakistan Navy and the government of Sindh. I personally feel, and I've said it in, on all the occasions, that especially the city of Karachi, because of sea and the large coastal area of Sindh, especially, I always say that Karachi is Navy's city. And we've worked together with Pakistan Navy on this. And in terms of collaboration, we've got now the cadet colleges in the province, the oldest one in Pitaro, is run by Pakistan Navy. The one in Sangar is run by Pakistan Navy. I think the two of these. We are planning a third cadet college in collaboration with Pakistan Navy at the coastal district of Sijawal. Apart from that, during the last several years, the Aman exercises which take place off the coast of Karachi, the government of Sindh and the Pakistan Navy collaborate on that. And also this way we're doing the Pakistan Maritime exhibition in Karachi, and we're working along with the Navy. Obviously it's a Navy-led initiative, but the government of Sindh is working along with them. In terms of other coastal developments, you talked about the Manoda beachfront development that we've done with the Navy. We've sort of redone all the roads leading towards the coast, the beaches in Karachi, the road towards PNS, I don't know what, PNS Manoda? Himalaya. Rubber. We've done all the roads there. You talked about the ferry service. Yes, we are talking about it, but unfortunately we've not been able to make much headway there, but we'll work on it so that we can provide good water sports facilities or excursion facilities for the residents of Karachi primarily, and even for others, because people from the entire country come to Karachi because one of the primary reason is the beaches and the sea that we have here. So yes, we need to further develop our coastal tourism, may it be in the city of Karachi, may it be the creeks. Talked several times about working along with Pakistan Navy to come up with tourism projects in our creek area in the districts of Thatta, Sijawal and Badin. And we'll continue to work there so that we can provide good tourism opportunities for people here.
Sir, Pakistan Navy is facing huge losses every year due damage to ships' machinery and frequent bird hits due to pollution. Sir, what are the steps which Sindh government is taking to reduce the pollution and help Navy to stop these losses?
Destroyed our beaches, destroyed our waters because of pollution. Najam, do you want to answer that? The different projects that we have for treatment plants, are you aware of them? Najam ko de dein.
Regarding the ocean pollution, the TP1 and TP4, these are the two projects in which we are having a public-private partnership tenders that are going to be launched very soon in the market. The TP1 is already an unsolicited proposal given to us from a very renowned organization which works in Pakistan. And that will not only do the primary, secondary, but tertiary treatment to the sewerage water and then dispose partially to the ocean after treatment under the terms and conditions required for this treatment. And half of it would come back to the site area because there is a scarcity of water in the city of Karachi. So we are recycling, and we have planned to recycle this water. It's around 50 mgd to the site area, industrial area. Same goes for the TP4 project, which is a greenfield project, and it is larger than the TP1. It will be 180 mgd's treatment of the sewerage water, and that will have a project coming in for Korangi and subsequently Landi industrial areas with a water treatment and recycle to the industrial areas of these two. First the Landi one, first the Korangi one, and subsequently the Landi one. These are very expensive propositions. So for example, TP1 would have 120, almost 120 billion rupees project with an OPEX which is also very high. So we are working with our lending partners and trying to get a cheaper lending, partial cheaper lending for the TP4 project through the World Bank and Asian Development Bank collaboration of around $150 million, and then rest would come in as a public-private partnership from the commercial lending and the investors. If I talk about the other pollution, and that would include the solid waste management, the government has done many pronged approach on this subject. Initially, if you look at it before going towards the issues that have been discussed here, there is a big issue of urban flooding that was addressed by cleaning the main streams, we call them nalas, in the city of Karachi and during the last 2 years. And that is the reason that Karachi, especially this year, was in a better position as compared to the previous years, despite the fact that there was a high gush of rainfall in the urban cities. If I look at the issue of plastics, that has been banned by the Karachi Municipal Corporation, and it is a very difficult proposition to impose. We are trying to impose it, but it will be a long way, a long shot, because not only in terms of the production within the country, but also the production across the borders of the country have to be curtailed to consider how to stop the plastics. And that's a challenge which we face every day. The waste disposal, a new site is being developed for the solid waste management, and that would be in addition to Jam Chakro and Gond Pass, and it will be at Dhabeji. 500 acres have been allocated. World Bank is funding that project, and it is in the formative phase of tendering. The cleaning of the city of Karachi in terms of the solid waste has now been extended to Hyderabad, Ladkana and Sakhar. The contracts have been revamped through the international consultants like EYs and Heather Motors to have a better understanding of the bulk shifting of the mainland to the mainland, and from door-to-door collection also. So things are improving in the sense in terms of the waste management. However, the severance issues and the issues of scavengers, there are 14,000 families that are dependent upon this business in this city. So we need to figure out a solution how to give them an alternate livelihood. That is a challenge that we are facing, sir. So any other specific questions, sir, I would be happy to answer.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. Sir, government of Pakistan has pledged 30% of its electrical needs, energy needs, to be converted to alternative by 2030. Sir, my question is, what's it government is planning to have ocean renewable energy being blessed with coastal belts and creek areas?
The province, we have taken the lead in this in terms of alternative energy. We've got the wind corridor of Jampir, which has the potential of generating, they say, 50,000 megawatts of energy. Currently, we are producing about 1,800 megawatts and 1,800 megawatts of electricity through wind. Solar, again, is a huge resource that we have both in Sindh, in Balochistan and southern Punjab. We are currently working, one of the projects that we are doing with the World Bank is to provide solar rooftop electricity to houses, and also for 2 solar parks, or 3 solar parks, 2 in Karachi and 1 in Manjand in district Jamshoro. These would be, 50 megawatts each? 50 megawatts each. Apart from that, we have converted, as in the government of Sindh, one of the phases was we've converted some of our schools and our hospitals in the rural areas to solar electricity in order to ensure supply of electricity to them, and secondly also to cut down costs. You talked about using the creeks, I believe, for electricity generation. Yes, there is a potential of generating electricity with the tide. We have had a look at it actually about 10 years ago. Chief Secretary and I were together, and we visited a facility where they were producing those turbines. At that time, the proposition was quite expensive. We'll again have a look at it because in the last 10 years, I'm sure the costs have come down, but definitely the potential of both offshore wind energy production and production due to the energy production or electricity production from tide differential can be looked at, and we can work towards that. And again, we have committed to have 30% of electricity in renewables. We need to work hard on that. Currently, I just asked the Chief Secretary, and he did touch upon the Thar coal project briefly, but we feel that the base load of this country has to come from the cheap resource that we have in Tharparkar. Just this morning, I chaired a meeting of the Thar Coal and Energy Board, and currently the fuel cost to produce the unit of electricity is the cheapest from Thar coal. It's much cheaper than obviously furnace oil and imported LNG. It's also cheaper than local gas. It's cheaper by about 30%, 40% cheaper than local gas. And as we increase the size of the mine and we get economies of scale, we can further go down. Yes, it does have a negative impact on the environment. In order to balance that or equalize that, we need to go into renewables so that the carbon footprint is reduced.
Sir, I am Lieutenant Commandant Nijat from Azerbaijan Navy. So as it was mentioned in one of the slides, that in the road connectivity, which is in between the major cities and the other towns of the Sindh, is included into the development strategy of the Sindh government. So I would like to ask, what about the inner roads of the cities itself? So as I observed so far, there is always a traffic jam on the roads. So it's a real challenge for the citizens to reach somewhere in time. So what are your future plans in order to solve this issue?
Intercity roads and also about traffic congestion within the city.
Yes, sir.
Intercity roads, yes, in the last 10 years or so, we've greatly invested on our road network. And if you'd looked at the slide which the Chairman Planning and Development presented, you'd see a large portion of our development goes into road construction, development resources. So our road network in terms of our inter-district roads is, again, due to floods, we've had some damages, but it's quite good. Internal in the cities, again, road network is there, but we need to look into public transport. That is what we are lacking, especially in the city of Karachi. And for that, we are undertaking the projects. Already 2 projects are in operation, the bus rapid transit, the green line and the orange line or the AD line. 2 are in operation. There are 2 under construction for bus rapid transits. In addition, we have at this point in time, just a few months ago, we've added 250 buses to the city of Karachi, which is nothing. What we require is something like 5,000 buses right now. But we are working towards increasing the public transport, comfortable public transport in the city, and we take care of traffic jams. We take care, and the stress that is related with either driving your car to work or driving to work on a motorcycle would greatly be reduced if we have good public transport. Your vote of thanks. I'd also like to thank all of you for coming over. I'm sorry I could not join you in the beginning. I had an emergent meeting had come, and I tried to make it back as quickly as possible. But I welcome all of you to the province of Sindh, to its capital, Karachi, and I wish the Inland Study Tour of this 52nd Pakistan Navy Staff Course and the 20th Correspondence Staff Course the best. I'm sure you'll learn a lot, and I hope that you have a good time here in Karachi.
Ladies and gentlemen, the province of Sindh is the 3rd largest province of Pakistan by area and 2nd largest province by population. Is known for its distinct culture, rich history, and ethnic diversity, and triad association with creation of Pakistan. The Sindh Assembly was the first British Indian legislature to pass the resolution in favor of Pakistan. Since its inception, this prestigious institution has rendered the remarkable public contribution in improving law and order, financial discipline, healthcare, education, and infrastructure development. Moreover, the recent efforts of Sindh government during relief and rescue operation in flood-affected areas of Sindh and highlighting the effects of climate change in international community are also commendable. Today, we stand better educated with respect to working methodology and influences of Civil Secretariat Sindh in making Pakistan what it is today. Sir, on behalf of Commandant, faculty and course participants of 52nd Pakistan Navy Staff Course and 20th Correspondence Staff Course, I, Commander Rashid, extend my profound gratitude for sparing your valuable time and hosting us today. Now I will request Commandant Pakistan Navy War College, Rear Admiral Javid Iqbal, Halal Imtiaz Military, for exchange of souvenirs.